Alright, so my name is Ishan Parmar, and the dystopian film that I chose was The Giver. So, in case you haven't watched The Giver, I'm going to basically go through the central plot arc. Did I keep pausing this? What? Is it working? Okay, so pretty much the film follows the basic dystopian plot arc that all dystopian film follows. So pretty much the opening of the movie displays a society where color is literally removed from the eyes of the members of the society. During this time, the elders are also shown, and these are the people who are the governing force of the society, and they are the elite. So the members of the society also seem somewhat brainwashed when they all pretty much accept an apology from one of the elders in a very uniform tone. So now after this is all produced by the filmmakers, the rising action then begins, where Jonas, during a ceremony where jobs are given to people when they come of age, he is chosen for the job as the receiver of memories. So he receives different memories from the giver, who is his teacher, and these accumulation of memories causes him to wonder what happens when someone gets released to elsewhere. So pretty much what the giver does is he shows him a video of his dad, who is a caretaker of babies, sending a baby to elsewhere when he isn't fit for their perfect society. And so essentially what happens is that he injects something into the baby, and that's when Jonas then realizes that, oh shoot, he's killing babies. And so this is pretty much during the entire climax of the film. So after this ignites the falling action. So Jonas decides to kidnap a baby who is about to be sent to elsewhere and whom he has developed a strong connection and relationship with. He kidnaps him, runs away, and he confronts multiple people and goes through multiple obstacles. One of such is one of his longtime friends named Asher pretty much confronts him outside of his vacancy and tells him to go back inside, but he decides not to, punches him in the face in order to get to where he needs to go. And he also has to get through the obstacle of their own police. They are chasing him, but then eventually he escapes them. So then, this is pretty much all during the falling action. Then the very resolution begins when Jonas finally gets to his objective. And his objective is to return all of the different memories back to the society, because that's where they're stripped from, such as the color that I mentioned at the beginning. So he does this by crossing the borders of elsewhere, and as soon as he does, all the memories come back. So in order to understand this movie a bit more, we can, compare it to a dystopian society that we all know fairly well, right? 1984. So there are very prominent similarities and differences between the two. So one similarity that they have is that they both have a social class system. So the one in The Giver is a little less relevant than 1984, but it's still there, and that's what I mentioned before, the elders. They are the governing force of the society, and they are shown to have more power than the rest of the society, the population. And so we all know the social class system in 1984, right? You have Big Brother, the inner party, then the outer party, and then the proles. So that's a similarity. Another similarity is that they both have some form of police. The police that I mentioned was chasing after Jonas, and also they have their own thought police that vaporizes people, captures people as needed. And both of them, this is interesting, both of them actually have technology that controls emotions. So I'll get a bit deeper into this later on in the presentation. But basically the main premise of it is that we all know what victory engine is. It pretty much makes people happier, right? Because their society is just that terrible if they need that. And pretty much here, the population needs to take these mandated injections in the morning, and these injections remove their emotions completely. Okay? And the final similarity that I noticed was that they're both monitored 24/7. So in 1984, we have the telescreens, and then in The Giver, we have cameras littered throughout the streets. The elder can apparently appear in a person's home at a moment notice, so there's literally no privacy. Alright, so now let's get into the differences. So because I believe this to be, I made a drawn a conclusion from this, but the people in The Giver seem to be generally more happy and satisfied with their life, because at the beginning it's supposed to be made out to be a utopia, right? So this is pretty much, they are generally more happy than people in 1984. And there's also a lot more propaganda involved in 1984, like hate week and stuff like that. We see Winston, changing records from the past to control the future, present, and then there also seemed to be, to me, to be less rebellious people in The Giver besides 1984, and though it doesn't say it like specifically because, you know, Brotherhood, you know, might have been a lie, but because there's like a prison, right, and there didn't seem to be one in The Giver, people just got sent to elsewhere. You know, a bit more rebellious nature seemed to be there in 1984. Okay, so how does this filmmaking convey their warning? So the warning that I saw is that they want us to not sacrifice our humanity in order to, you know, preserve some sort of structure and order, because that's what happens in The Giver. So in order to better understand this, I have a film clip here for you guys. It's good.
That girl, she is filtered.
That's enough.
We are living a life of shadows, of echoes, of faint, distant whispers of what once made us real.
We must continue.
Notice the color of the comic. This monochromatic tone as opposed to Genesis. And so he's crossing the borders to elsewhere, and in doing this, memories. Okay, so I'm sure you guys both noticed, all you guys noticed that the color is very prominent in here. Sorry about that, let me like. Okay, so color is very prominent here. So the film is black and white in order to represent how the population sees. The black and white color is supposed to symbolize the absence of our humanity and the cause of sacrificing it. The color shows us how dull life is like without our humanity. Another technique the filmmakers use is by their use of dystopian features, and as I mentioned before, technological control is a very prominent one. The filmmakers use this device in order to show us what the consequences are if we sacrifice our humanity. The elders' use of drones and suppression of emotions sort of stop any possible rebellion and keep their population under total and absolute control. So the third way the filmmakers convey the warnings is by their use of conflicts between Jonas and the elders. And this pretty much also serves as a cause to what happens if we sacrifice humanity. Jonas and Ashton were best friends, and you know, they eventually had started their own conflict as a result of the loss of humanity. Alright, so pretty much something that I've learned is that under watching this under a critical lens is that it's sort of impossible to create a utopia. So that was pretty much like what they tried to do. They tried to, you know, rid themselves of obstacles, and this is where I want to turn attention to the quote, because of course there's violence beneath the community's veneer of calm. They try to remove every obstacle, and only doing that caused new obstacles, right? So here it says that violence is sort of that obstacle. And so that's what I learned, that like, you know, no matter what you do in terms of obstacles, removing all of them only leads to other ones. Alright, so lastly, why you guys should view The Giver critically. It presents a very valuable message that anyone can benefit from, if recognizable, so that's why you should view it critically. So I just want to ask this, like, how many of us have lost sleep over an assignment, right? I'm sure we all have, you know, like studying and stuff. So, you know, sort of these two situations are very comparable, the one between The Giver and between, you know, us losing sleep, right? So essentially, right, like losing sleep is a very short-term game when you want to, you know, study a bit more for that test. However, doing this repeatedly over and over and over again, you see a lot more consequences, such as, you know, you lose productivity throughout the day for that short-term game over that period. And so, you know, this is a very specific scenario where in The Giver, you know, their specific one is humanity, sacrificing humanity for structure and order. And so they pretty much want us to not do the same, but sort of different way. They want us to like not, sacrifice something that could really help us in the long term only for a short-term gain.